Gary, is there an argument for a session for sports to be considered like a season for a specific league?
My fear comes more or less from that sports bettor that is going to just go to, his family's CPA or anything like that, and they're not going to know about Schallenberger versus commissioner. He's going to go put on the tax return that the client had 1.5 million of wins, 1.3 million of losses, then take the 10% reduction, and now all of a sudden it looks like the client had an awful year.
Hello, welcome in. It's Behind the Lines, Purifying Sports Betting, Winning with SX. I'm Shane. Pace here. Gosu joining us. His CPA is on the show today. Stay tuned for that. That's a lot of fun. We're talking about the big, beautiful bill and the gambling tax provision, of course. Also, the FBI has indicted a couple of baseball players. Some crazy lines spotted over the weekend as well. And of course, we will hit the grind. But guys, let me just start off with this breaking news that hit over the weekend. Well, we don't have to spend too much time on it, but I want to mention it. Pace, you and I, we talked about these players back probably, I don't know, maybe June, somewhere around there. A couple of Cleveland Guardians players here. Luis Ortiz and Emmanuel Clase, they got caught up in a gambling scandal. They were being investigated by the league. It turns out now these guys could be going to jail. The FBI announced indictments against both of them. What they were doing is they were essentially working with bettors and telling them that the first pitch of an at-bat was going to be a ball, and then they would go out there and throw a ball. And they would make sure it was a ball, making sure the ball hit the dirt. And you can see these pitches out there, lots of video of them. It started in 2023 with Clase. And the FBI alleges that he helped bettors win about $400,000 this way. Ortiz got into the mix in this past season in 2025, essentially doing the same thing. And here's the crazy thing, guys. You know what these guys were being bribed with? $5,000.
Oh my God.
$5,000. I mean, John Pace, that's probably a bet for you guys.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what these guys were being bribed with. I think maybe each time they did it, they got $5,000, but that's what it was. In some cases, in Clase's case, he was doing it in games too, communicating, or allegedly. The FBI alleges that he was communicating with the bettors during the game itself.
That's pretty wild.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Pretty crazy stuff here, guys. I think
go to jail. Go to jail.
Go to jail, and maybe that's what we need.
Out of sports. Yeah.
Maybe that's what we need in order for this to put a lid on it and maintain the integrity in the game, is seeing these guys go to jail.
Yeah, and I don't think any bettors are going to be missing betting on balls and strikes if they pull that market.
Yeah. Except the guys who are trying to bribe players.
Yeah.
They'll find something else to bet on, but yeah,
and other places to place those bribes. Maybe it'll be UFC.
Right.
All right. I wanted to mention that off the top because it was big breaking news over the weekend. Also over the weekend, Pacer, we spotted something pretty shady out there. This one coming from FanDuel, and we'll put the screenshots up for you. Send them over to Chesto. He can edit them on here, so everybody will be able to look at this. But this was a pretty wild one from Sunday night. Utah Mammoth, Ottawa Senators, and the Ottawa Senators minus 2.5 towards the end of the game. Minus 3,500. On the other side of that bet, the Utah Mammoth plus 2.5 on the puck line, minus 104.
Some juice.
I mean,
that's
pretty crazy,
right
pretty
there.
egregious.
Yeah, but there's a lot more to that than just that line being offered, and I think people should there's a lot to unpack in that one line, right? Because the first is the situation, right? Mouth were up 2 or down 2, Shane?
They would have been down 2.
Senators were up 2.
Were winning.
Senators are up 2. They go on to a power play, right? The true odds there, you could throw up minus 150. Maybe I can get on board with a minus 200 type price being offered in that scenario. But the other side of the line implied that it should have been about minus 125. Right, because they did have the other side of the line priced at like what you said there, Shane.
They priced at minus 104, so you would think it would have been plus 125 or something.
Now I'm guilty of this, and this is kind of like a little hack that I'm giving away to all the listeners right now that can be really, really valuable in betting and potentially in keeping accounts. But I might look at a menu and not know anything about what I'm betting on. Nothing at all. Not watching the game, but I parlay it with something just to be a parlay better instead of a straight better. So that in and of itself is like a bit of a sharp trap if you're not paying attention to what it is that you're betting and you're like, oh, I'm just going to put this lock on there that can't lose. It's minus $1 million, and you parlay it with your other picks. Well, you've just completely trapped your bettors using false lines and false information to get them to play. That's number one. Number two, there are people that legitimately base the line off of the value that they're betting on. And there's a lot of sports bettors that go, oh, it's a free 1%, right? I'll put 10,000 on this to win, $10 or $100 or whatever the line is. And they use the sports books as the source of truth in and of itself. And they do it, 50 times, and they go 50 for 50. And then they lose, the next one, right? And they get absolutely smoked. And then they'll still go back and actually do it again. But that number one should be illegal. You shouldn't be able to offer egregious juice like that. Like if it was minus 125 on both sides, you would be like, oh, that's pricey. But when you calculate the net juice that they're charging in this situation between both sides, it should be illegal. The other thing that you see hand in hand with that is only one side of a line being offered. So you'll just offer the money line for a team down 4, with 30 seconds left, and it'll be like 12.0 plus 1100. And it just shouldn't be allowed. If you offer one side, you should have to offer the other side. And they are in this case, but they're doing it to totally scam and trap people into this just ridiculous line that could be extremely costly to the player.
Also, a lot of people will have accept all odds changes on because it's the only way to get a bet in on some of these sports books. Like I think if you've ever been limited on FanDuel, even just slightly, they're typically your spinner is going to become really, really long. And so a lot of people are betting this minus 2.5 when it's minus 115. And by the time it spins in, they're betting to win 5 cents on a minus 3,500 line. So
that's a very good point. Yep.
Yeah.
So, and you are being free rolled at that point completely.
Oh, yeah. Big time. And the accept all odds thing, John, I don't even think that's for people who are limited. I think there's a lot of books out now where you get in there, you have to click that immediately.
Yeah.
If you want to spin anything in, you've got to have that clicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
there's so many shady tricks that are out there. I know we've exposed them a little bit, but if any of you as bettors that are listening have some of these types of stories, we always want to hear about them, because the more that we can put this information out publicly as bettors, the better the chance that, again, we've touched on some of these regulators, how they're just totally clueless, but the better the chance that someone sees or hears this that goes, that is wrong, right? And we get someone that actually can make a statement on it. We've had the guys with American Bettors Voice on here. This is the kind of stuff that they need to see and hear so that they can go to the regulator and say, this is what that sportsbook is doing, why they're doing it. And, we talk about what needs to be regulated. That stuff is just like, it's like criminal theft from their players.
Yeah, I wonder if they've seen, Pace, you mentioned the bettor that goes and makes their decision simply based off of what the odds are, the juice that's there. And I wonder if they've sort of started to see more of that, and that's prompted this kind of a line, because we haven't mentioned it yet, but that minus 3,500 lost.
Oh yeah, it lost. Yeah. It lost. I think we lost on that game, but we had much better odds than minus 3,500.
Yeah, a lot better than minus 3,500 for sure. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty sketchy. Some shady stuff going on there for sure. And I don't, sometimes you see the books post really bad lines the other way, where you're like, wow, those odds are amazing. That's way off. And you want to bet it. And then they would probably void it. I guarantee you they didn't void that minus 3,500 loss.
Oh God, no chance. No chance.
Definitely not. Okay. Well, I think that is good. We've got a pretty long conversation coming up here. All things everybody out there, especially if you're in the United States, but I think there's a lot that applies here in Canada as well. We've got an interview here with Gary Conler from Kondler and Associates, all about the big, beautiful bill and the gambling tax provision in there. He is an accountant, and let's bring him in. All right, happy to welcome Gary Conler to the show. He's an accountant with Kondler and Associates. And Gary, I imagine that over the last, 6 months or so, you have probably been flooded by sports bettors trying to get advice, information, some kind of guidance when it comes to the big, beautiful bill and the gambling tax provision within it. You also spoke at Bet Bash back in August, giving a whole seminar on the topic. Gary, right off the bat, when you get somebody showing up in your email inbox saying, hey, I need to figure this whole thing out, where do you start?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks so much for having me on. It's been a little hectic over the last couple of months. Really just trying to, kind of go through the bill, decipher, our interpretation of things, and then making sure we're getting the proper, information out, to our clients. So I think right now it's a kind of a really good time, especially now that we're past the 1015 extension. Realistically, for me to start doing a lot of like deep dives into the law and everything like that, and seeing what kind of court cases can I apply, to really help assist. So I think that where one of the most important things to roughly start is that. While I, onboard a lot of clients, everyone is very unique in their own situation. Even though I can have sports bettors and poker players, any type of gambling, everyone's information is always going to come across a little bit differently from one to the other. So, like when I kind of now start to like onboard clients, and, this is where like a big planning event will occur from now till the end of the year, is really just having a good understanding of, how are you keeping your documentation? What kind of gambler are you? And then what kind of laws can we sit here and apply, to specific things? And, when we start to talk about, the big, beautiful bill, well, just remember that the first thing that we realistically want to get clear is that you can take up to 90% of the losses. And so, that is going to be important because, I will obviously have players that come to me, every year with a big loss during the year. And, where it started to get confusing in the country was really just saying that they can only write up to 90% of the losses, off, which, the information was just a little bit all over the place. So where I think the most important thing that we really want to be kind of taking a look at here right now is going to be a big argument or a big conversation about something called the Sessions method of accounting. And so if we kind of sit here and we take a look at, and we'll just talk sports betting for right now.
Yeah.
And, there's a court case out there and it's called Schallenberger versus Commissioner. And it was a court case going back, I believe like 20, 30 years ago, where an older couple was playing blackjack hands in the casino. And let's just say they walked out with a profit of $500. Well, okay. They went to the IRS, tax court, all of that, and they were sitting there wondering, well, on our tax return, do we have to show that we gambled $3,000, had losses of $2,500 for our $500 profit, or can we just show the net amount of how we did on that day? Okay, so if we talk in terms of numbers, so the original way would be show $3,000 as wins, show $2,500 of losses, and then that would get us down to our $500 profit. And this went to court, and the IRS ended up ruling that no, you do not have to show the $3,000 of wins and the $2,500 of losses. You can just net it down and show $500 on that given day. And that's a great court case and all, and it is something that I do try to utilize as much as physically possible. But if we now look at the example where we compare the Sessions method to, let's just say, a slot player. And the slot, let's just say we assume the same situation, slot player wins $500 on that day. But where it gets interesting is that client could have triggered a tax form, a W-2G, of let's just say $3,000. And now my problem is, and what I see in my day-to-day operations here is that if the client is then not tying to tax forms, meaning now they have to tie to the $3,000 tax form, as you see, it's a little bit different than the blackjack example, is that the IRS is now going to send you a letter because they don't see that $3,000 showing up anywhere on your tax return. So as you
Okay.
can see, you see how, like, even if we just bring up this one little example, one client is going to be different than the other. The blackjack player is never going to trigger tax forms, which means they're never going to trigger IRS letters. Whereas the blackjack player, it's going to be a little bit different. So whenever I take a look at a few specific things, we can go through the whole calculation with the client and say, hey, which way do you want to file here? I have some disclosure statements I can put on the tax return, but sometimes the IRS isn't going to read those disclosure statements. And then when the algorithm gets in there, it doesn't pick up the income, and now we have problems. Okay. Now, where we want to kind of continue this conversation going forward is let's take, for instance, like a sports bettor. And let's just say, for instance, we bet, let's just take an example, $1,000 on every game yesterday, every NFL game.
Okay.
And
so we had 12 games yesterday? So what has that been? $12,000? Okay.
Yeah. So we bet $12,000, and let's just assume that we're all these are just there's no line, just a 1-to-1 bet. We're no vig or anything like that.
Okay.
And so where we want to take a look at the sessions method is not saying that we roughly gambled $12,000. And let's just take that we won 8 games when we lost 4K profit on the day. Well, under the sessions method of accounting, what I would start to like to see clients do is maybe considering taking an Excel spreadsheet, and let's just start to break out columns here. So let's call column A the date range. Okay, we'll put 1/1 to 12/31. And let's just say, for example, instead of us showing that we won $8,000 and had losses of $4,000 to get to our $4,000 profit, we now can have a netting column. Let's just call that column, I don't care, column D or whatever, where we now net out that we had a winning day of 4K. Now, do you see under the big beautiful bill, there's no 10% reduction on that day now. I now don't have to take a 10% reduction of the $4,000 on that day because we can utilize this court case called Schallenberger versus Commissioner, where now we took no reduction on the day. Now let's take the example where we bet the 12 games, but we lost 8 of them and we won 4. Okay, so let's have a column for the winning days netted out, and let's now have a column for the losing days netted out. And do you now see how if we start to follow that accounting treatment, we're going to keep our losses a lot smaller than using the gross figures? Because even though you had a winning day, you now don't have to show that you had a loss in that day, which means no reduction on that day.
Okay. So is this all a matter of you don't want to show the reduction because you want to save it for later?
We want to keep our losses as small as possible so that we don't have to take the full 10% of all of the gross losses on the year. Because I have clients that are going to be betting thousands of games, tens of thousands of games on a daily basis. And if they showed their numbers gross, then they're going to have a big reduction, maybe even more than 10%, to be honest with you.
So, Gary, the obvious question then is, using the sessions method, does it have to be daily? Can you do monthly? Can you do weekly? Can you do annually?
Yeah.
Right? Because using, as soon as I extrapolate a month, I'm probably showing losing days on over the course of the month.
Yeah, and I think that is where you're going to see the biggest argument right now is defining a session.
Okay.
Right. They're going to tell you right now it's probably going to be a 24-hour window. And where the sessions method gets a little bit convoluted too is that they then will kind of step in and say, well, if we have a client betting sports over here and now he moves to the roulette table, they're going to say that roughly opens up a new session in that day as well.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
You've kind of crossed over the boundary there, right?
Yeah. And now, proving that would always be, a big disaster. And right now, what I am currently doing, and I don't have a full answer on it yet, my goal right now is to pretty much send off what I think are 2 and 3 important questions to about 4 or 5 different tax lawyers all over this country. I've kind of vetted them out between who has some gambling knowledge and who's just the best in the country. And what I essentially want is that I've listed like 3 questions where I just want them to focus in on, because everyone can take a look at my opinion and very trust what I have to say about this. But if we're going to be moving into a brand new law, I need these things vetted out by lawyers. And in all honesty, I want one person to say yes, I want 3 to say no, and I want them all to get into a room together and argue it back and forth.
Wow.
Because there's another court case that I'm looking at. I believe it's called Bonaparte versus Commissioner. And Bonaparte versus Commissioner has some language in it where the client used a yearly session method from casino to casino.
Okay.
And that is a little bit going into your question right there of how can we figure out how to make some of these things a yearly session? Because to your point, then your losses are going to stay even smaller if we're able to break out from, let's say, whatever website you're playing on, whatever casino you're playing at here in Vegas or all over the world. And Bonaparte is something that I am going to be looking at very extensively here in the next month or so. A lot of these court cases are very vague, to be honest with you, but in vagueness comes our interpretation of the law as well.
Right. So what's interesting about what you brought up relating to like this crossover of, okay, I've just played sports all day and now I'm going to go hit the roulette wheel, and that potentially being 2 separate sessions. Number one, I find that kind of funny and interesting. Number 2, I'm like, aren't we talking about gambling? Like who's going to actually track this stuff responsibly? And of course, we're talking to professional bettors in this chat, but also our listeners as well. So, they go, well, guess what? I'm the guy that does that. And obviously when you go to, Vegas and you spin a few roulette wheels net on the year, you don't really mind it all that much because it's a nice little blemish to help things out for you long term. And of course comes with some perks potentially as well. I look at it and I go, you brought up the word proof. Bringing proof into the equation is where things are really interesting, because if I'm talking about a roulette wheel, a blackjack table, all that kind of stuff, it's like, I'll tell them I lost 10,000, not to mention if this is a whole other discussion, but casinos love to be able to say that a player lost money on their side of things. The sports books themselves have documentation of every single bet made. And a lot of professional bettors aren't necessarily playing in accounts, number 1, in their name, and number 2, in a regulated environment. So like, this is sticky already.
Already right? Sticky. And where I sometimes have an issue is that I'll represent a lot of people. Our firm will represent a lot of people in audits. And what I really, tend to see is not a consistency request from the IRS. I'll sometimes sit there and see an IRS agent tell someone that they will not accept third-party documentation, meaning if that person goes and prints out their slot wins and loss from Bellagio, I've seen that not accepted a few times. And then I'm dealing with one right now where the person was like, yeah, send me all of that. I'll take all of that into consideration. Okay. So, what I normally tend to see from the most part, in audits, and realistically, like, remember, like the only time you're going to be asked to prove anything is in an audit. And they are very rare. I've been doing this for a good, 7 to 10 years now. I haven't seen a federal audit come my way in a while. I've seen some state audits kind of come through, which I'm happy about. But this is, again, and John probably knows this as well, is the questions that I'm going to ask him first is going to say, what do your tax forms total from gambling, if any? That is my number 1 starting question. I need to know what does the IRS know about you? Because if you triggered a W-2G from, let's say, a real casino, a 1099 from a sweepstakes social casino, those things are going to hit your wage and income transcript, which is what I recommend for all gamblers to go onto the IRS's website, create an ID.me account. And if you go in there and do it, you'll see every single W-2G and 1099 listed. So, like, for instance, from now, let's just say from June to the rest of this year, I pretty much will not do anybody's tax return until they send me that wage and income transcript. Because if I tie everything to the numbers that the IRS knows about you, well, that's how we're kind of keeping our clients without triggering any problems. Because if you start, I normally tend to see if you miss about $500,000 or more of W-2Gs on your tax return, that can roughly trigger an audit. Anything lower will trigger a CP 2000, which is just them asking for more information on your tax return. So whenever I send off the responses to CP 2000 letters, they're not asking to show the proof. They're just saying, hey, you missed some income. And then we always like kind of write a response back and say, yes, we realized the income was missing, but the client, paid tax on the proper profit. We just forgot about those tax forms. But getting an audit, then you will be asked to prove the losses. So I normally tend to see I like the spreadsheet kind of happening a lot. I will sometimes see the IRS request bank statements and stuff like that. But I always sit there and tell the IRS, you're not going to see much coming from the bank statements because all of us gamblers know we're either going to leave the money on the account or we're going to take cash home. We're going to go spend it on some other things. I may not get to the bank 2 or 3 weeks later. And then the money that I'm depositing may not even be my profit.
Right.
And so if we kind of take a look, and this is one thing I was assisting my father, who's the owner of the firm, with the other day, is that when we got on the phone with the IRS in regards to an audit, the person had no idea what, slot machines even were. And so I have a perfect example where I have one client has a YouTube channel and he loves to buy the bonuses on the slot machines. So perfect example, he spends $2,500 buying the bonus. And on the slot spin, he won $1,500.
Right.
And it triggers a W-2G.
Right.
But me and you guys both know he just lost $1,000 triggering that tax form.
Yeah.
So whenever I start to see audits and stuff, you kind of really have to start to level with them and get on their kind of knowledge basis in order to be able to properly talk about these things, because there's going to be so many different things running around with tax forms, then going into your Excel spreadsheets. Whether you track it on an app, it is going to roughly be all over the place. So the more information, the better. I normally tend to see things get a little messier on the slot side of things. It's not really that messy for the sports bettors because their accounts will kind of tell them what they made. But if you then if we go back and go a deeper dive into, let's just say, the sessions method, let me just play out an example for you of one thing that I believe is really not fair for one gambler to the other. And it's not that I'm sitting here saying, oh, all of my sports bettors should move to be an arbitrage gambler. But if you look at an arbitrage gambler under the sessions method, and they just take their 1 cent every bet on the dollar, 2 cents on the dollar, whatever it is, do you now see how that client never had a losing day?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So you see it online all the time. They'll have one losing day in a year.
Yeah. So what reduction did that client then have?
There is an argument there is a counter argument to that, right? If you printed out all of their bets and tallied up their volume, that's what the fear is of this bill.
Yeah.
Right. So you're putting call that the fire. You've got the host of the fire here, but at the same time, that is the counter argument.
Yeah, and my fear comes more or less from that sports bettor that is going to just go to his family's CPA or anything like that, and they're not going to know about Schallenberger versus Commissioner. He's going to go put on the tax return that the client had 1.5 million of wins, 1.3 million of losses, then take the 10% reduction, and now all of a sudden it looks like the client had an awful year, paid tax on way too much that he should have taken.
Right.
And that is roughly one of my concerns right now. But also, I don't really think that when you look at the big beautiful bill and you take a look at my high roller poker players. Well, my high roller poker players may still bring me $1 million in profit every year, but may only have 4 winning days out of the year.
Right.
Which means now they played 70 other tournaments. Now, if you're looking to do even a sessions method on that, it's now a lot more impactful for that high roller poker player now versus your arbitrage gambler, who, in my opinion, isn't going to see any reduction if, like we just said, if he doesn't have those losing days. Yeah, he's going to have a losing day here or there, but his losses were small.
Right.
Is there, Gary, is there an argument for a session for sports to be considered a season for a specific league or something like that? So consider I have a bet on the New England Patriots, excuse me, to win the AFC East. When they
which you do, John.
Which I do. Yeah. And when they play the Bills in a couple of weeks, it's really going to make a lot of sense potentially to have some money on the Bills, and that game is tied to a bet I made 4 months ago.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a really great question, because obviously I'm going to have some what I call timing instances from year over year, and the Super Bowl is kind of the best timing issue, because it's realistically like, well, let's just say, and this is a true story. I have one client who takes whatever he's up on the year going into football season, or kind of in, let's say, October, November. Let's say he's up 100K, and then he'll try to go rip 100K on a Super Bowl winner. Well, at 12/31, what's his profit? $0 or 100,000?
Right.
See how we now have a timing issue.
Right.
So I normally will go more or less like when the bet is graded, to be honest with you. But what I tell my clients is like, keep consistency. If you want to take that as a loss, and now the Patriots win the Super Bowl, you are going to have to add back the 100,000 of the loss that you tried to take in the prior year, and then add it on. So in a long-winded kind of answer to your question, I think that's a very gray area right now. I do think that is something that it would be very difficult to ever kind of be pulled into an audit, in all honesty. And there is going to have to be a lot more court cases that are going to have to come out where that example is explained. And if explained, then I really don't see how you wouldn't have some sort of backing on that to really realistically explain that to the IRS. Right. Because you're going to want to be looking to hedge it back. Of course you are.
That same argument then, like to John's point, his is pretty black and white right there. It's like, here's this bet that I have at 20-1, and I'm way ahead on this bet. And here's this marquee matchup where I can, theoretically put in some sort of hedge, potentially win both. But it's tied to one another. And then you rewind the tape for the whole NFL season and you go, well, there is some sort of correlation with a lot of these decisions that I'm making from a strategic standpoint.
Absolutely.
In regards to all the bets that I'm making, with sort of this broader picture in mind with some of the futures bets that I've made. Really good example of that too would be, if you're trying to corner some sort of market, like, I don't know, offensive rookie of the year, and you might be betting some games as a hedge. You might be betting some other players as a hedge. And with those futures markets, and again, like just thinking strategically, you may end up doing something along the lines of a team to miss the playoffs that's totally associated with that same bet. So I mean, if there was an audit in this stuff, I think the flip side of the equation is like, have fun proving that I wasn't doing that.
And so what I would then just start to recommend is like, if you then had like all your bets listed in Excel, and you're not able to be like, oh, okay, that was where I hedged that back, that's where I took the other side on that bet. Because remember, I'm going to have a lot of Circa Survivor players too, who will find ways to hedge this stuff back as well. And I just think like, I would just like, the more information that you can provide is going to be better. And saying like, hey, I know this is the Patriots bet, but here's hedge 1, here's hedge 2, here's hedge 3. And if we can start to explain that, then I would, kind of take more of a comfortable position saying, this is our interpretation of Schallenberger versus Commissioner, which is very broad, to be honest with you. Anyway, it's a blackjack case.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I now can apply it to X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to have it. But as long as we have a solid basis for it, that would really realistically be the way that we would explain it. Because remember, the way that the audit is going to work is that you're going to pretty much try to prove your point. If you don't believe that you can prove it, you can, let's say, move it up to an appeals agent. But then after appeals, you're then looking at tax court, which the IRS does not want to do. No one wants to go to tax court. It's expensive for both sides. And I would assume that, in the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of cases. But let's take a broader picture on this of when court cases could actually come out on the BBB. So let's say, for instance, I'm not going to file a tax return that has the 10% reduction on it until February of 2027.
Right.
All right, let's keep playing it out. that means that the review then, or an audit letter, would not come out until mid 2028, with the appeal and the letters taking a couple of months of time. And then if you want to go to tax court, you're probably not looking at something until 2029. So you're going to put a lot of people, including, you're going to put a lot of tax preparers in some bad situations, because they're going to be doing these tax returns for 2 or 3 years without any sort of court cases to go off of, or any sort of legislation. And I do know that the IRS wants to be able to come out and sort of extrapolate, or because all they added to the big beautiful bill is what, 12 words that don't even mention the word gambling. They mention the word wagering. Okay.
Yeah.
And now if, for instance, you call over there, because they do have legal assistance over there. Yeah, but now there's no one over there, and we're in a shutdown and stuff like right now. I have a lot of clients right now saying, "Hey, yeah, Gary, we have these IRS letters." I'm like, "Listen, they're all ready to go. I'm just trying to get it into someone's hands right now, but we need more kind of guidance going forward." And that was the hardest thing when I started 2 weeks ago, is when I started hiring some tax lawyers to start assisting me with this. But remember, they don't have any guidelines going forward on this because it's brand new. So it's kind of like where I have to I honestly have to educate them a little bit. And then I'm like, can you take any of these sentences that I just said and go find me a different court case, or go find me X, Y, and Z, in order to do, and start to put these numbers on tax returns.
Yeah, it's all novel, and everybody's kind of learning as they go, trying to figure it out. Just like, you're sort of mentioning there, getting the lawyers in a room, argue it out, and sort of see where people land and that kind of thing. And I'm glad you brought up the fact that it doesn't mention gambling, and that the wording is wagering, because I think, and I don't know, and this is a question for you and John, and especially John being the only pro bettor here that's in the United States, and having to navigate all of this. Where do the prediction markets sort of fit in? Do they trigger different forms? Does that factor in? And John, dude, it sounds like a massive headache that you're going to have to deal with when it comes to all of these forms and keeping track of them. And I know you will, but will average bettors? I'm guessing most won't.
They also probably won't be people that get put on the spotlight, Shane.
You're probably right about that too. Yeah.
This is the, like I said, I have one of 3 questions out there right now, and this is one of the 3 questions of what are we going to be doing here? Because where I start when I onboard clients and talk to them, and when we start to get into tax season, well, I start to have answers to questions based on the following question: where do your tax forms come from? Okay, so if we take a look at, let's just say, Kalshi is probably the best example right now. Well, I don't know yet what tax form Kalshi is going to be issuing, let's say, come February, if any tax form at all. It could look like a 1099-B, which is like a brokerage statement, which kind of says like, hey, here was my cost basis, here was my proceeds of the sale. Could it be paid out on a regular 1099 miscellaneous with just their profit? Potentially. But, this is a real life example too. I have one client right now. He's up $500,000 on Kalshi right now. And sitting in his tax return is a $500,000 stock loss carry forward. And if you want to take a look at, and you say that Kalshi wants to tell these people that is a predictive market, which is what is called a 1256 contract. Well, a 1256 contract is a stock disposition, essentially. It's treated like stocks. So now if you're saying, well, and here's one of the interesting is KPMG actually wrote a very good tax article on it, but you can see in KPMG's wording, they don't want to take a side yet. If your tax preparer sees it this way, do this. If your tax preparer sees it this way, treat it like that. Because now all of a sudden in this client's argument, if he's sitting there with a $500,000 Kalshi gain, but he now has $500,000 in a stock loss carry forward, he's going to pay tax on $0. Because it will wipe out the gain. That's how U.S. stock. That's how how it works in the U.S. But what form is he going to be paid out on? Because that's going to be telling me a lot to do with where the numbers need to be in my tax system to not trigger audits and to not trigger IRS letters. And so I think right now you're going to see that a lot of people are going to have both sides of this. Is it a stock? Would it look like a stock gain, or is it gambling? I've read the first couple of paragraphs of the terms and conditions on Kalshi, which do call it a predictive market, which could lead into 1256 contract. But in my opinion, too, it's a gambling gain. It's a gambling win. Right. So I do think that this is one of the, kind of the things that I'm going to start to uncover here in the next couple of months, because I really realistically don't want to be putting tax returns through for, using it on one client when it really helps them. But then for this client, I called it a gambling loss or a gambling gain to go and offset other items.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to be consistent with it. That makes sense.
But then let's also talk about this. If Kalshi wants to sit there and then say it's a 1256 contract, well, big beautiful bill don't cover that as a 10% reduction.
Right. And then my question for you, John, as the guy sort of who's using it and is there, like, is there an incentive to place more of your wagers at Kalshi come next year?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've started using it as much as possible because you're often always getting a better price than what else is out there in the sports betting market, already, right? Because there's less vig. And then, here's another wrinkle to it. You earn interest on positions that you hold. So like and again, to Gary's point, who knows how they're going to send me all of this to let me know what my report out is next year. But it's like, I've earned a certain amount of interest. I've also won a certain amount of money on sports. Then I've also won a certain amount of money on really weird stuff. Like, will Trump say Epstein in October, and so it's like, how does all of this fit together? It's all in this one thing. And maybe another one, Gary, to talk about it. Like, I mean, we don't have to go into it, keep going into, the same thing, just in a rabbit hole, but like Robinhood offers sports contracts now, right? Too. Mm-hmm. And they've just traditionally been like a stock investment platform or just a securities platform. So that's another one.
Because I'm wondering if Robinhood's a perfect example, because, on your page one of your 1099B, they're going to show what you've sold and lost as short-term, long-term, covered, non-covered. And this is realistically what you want to be taking a look at, because, also the other sort of wrinkle in all of this too is a lot of times people are, gaining stuff and then they're converting it to crypto. And then that crypto could either be appreciating or depreciating in value. Mm. Okay, so now do we have two different streams of income coming in? I have now my gambling side of things where, hey, that bet won me 10,000. I forgot to take it out. It was, holding in Bitcoin, and all of a sudden Bitcoin saw a 10% gain, over a couple of months. Do I now have a stock gain and then a gambling gain? Well, good luck tracking that all year, because I know these people are going to be running 50 different sites, 50 different people under them, and to start tracking this stuff is a disaster. But always just start by asking yourself, where did my tax forms come from? Okay, I have a Robinhood statement. I have two W-2Gs over here. I have a 1099 over here. Really start there, and because they're really not going to tie to what your spreadsheet's going to say at the end of the day. Poker's the perfect example where, let's just say I win a tournament today for $4,500. No, I'm not getting a W-2G for that, but I did have a $4,000 gain today. Okay, right. That's going to have to go into and so that's why I always start with people with realistically asking two questions. Where do your tax forms come from, if any? And then number two, what's your profit on the year? They're not going to be the same thing, because the problem in my industry, and I'm starting to help my clients get a little bit better at this, is don't just go and drop all your W-2Gs and 1099s off with your tax preparer without telling them your profit. He's going to go and put all of those numbers in, not knowing that there was any difference when there could be a massive difference here.
Right. Yeah. And that profit, it's not just simply saying this was my profit. You have to have it tracked, right? Yeah. In some kind of way.
Yeah, have it tracked. People are going to do it differently. I think one of probably the reason that I'm in my job position now is that I could read people's spreadsheets better than most people can. Some are going to be very clear. Some people are going to have 50 different tabs leading up into one tab. Yeah, it's kind of a headache. It's kind of all over the place. But this is why, like, people that don't, use me, people that go to other people, always confirm on your tax return they got it right. Because you have no idea what my office looks like on April 1st. And all it sits there and takes is, you miss one email, one little line item buried into an email back from February. You missed it. I have 50 other tax returns on my desk. No, make sure they got it right, because there is so much going on at that time of year. Always have kind of a questioning mind with these things of saying, hey, Gary, did you? So like every email, like when I finish up a tax return, I'm like, hey, this is what I have your gambling profit at. Are we in the same ballpark here? And then here's the tax you owe. Because it could be a client just, for instance, saying like, hey, Gary, my wins on the year were 80,000. My losses were 40,000. They put a negative 40,000. Does that now mean the client won $40,000 on the year, or did they end the year up negative 40,000? Okay, so it's like more or less just like helping people be clear about where their numbers are going on, but still have a questioning mind when you get that tax return back. Don't just assume that your CPA or your tax preparer got it right every time.
Right. Gary, there's a lot of people out there too who are thinking, oh, I don't need to worry about this. This thing's going to get the Fair Bet Act is in motion, and this thing's going to get changed, and it's highly unlikely that we ever have to deal with this. There are people out there who still believe that. Are you one of them?
I would be more on the positive side of things. I'm not saying take my information and go bet this on Kalshi right now. But I
John's clicking. I see him.
Talk about a hedge, right? What a hedge opportunity.
I have seen a lot of new backing from specific big groups out there, especially in the CPA world, where a lot of people are trying to put their support through it. I did take a look at what the IRS thinks that they're going to make on it, and they think they're going to make like $125 million a year from this. And yeah, I think that 125 million could come from my firm alone. So and then how would you ever start tracking some of that information of how much people are saving? Because all it takes is one person to not use the sessions method here, and they're now going to be paying tax on way more than what they should right now. So I do think with some of the groups, I actually was tracking it last week. There was a few nice groups big groups that got involved and said, hey, we're going to push our support into this. I do have a bunch of clients too as well that are, pooling together a lot of money and lobbying for it as well. So I do think that, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to see them push more examples out of how to treat these items, or you're going to see it repealed. But I wish I can almost tie a percentage to it, but I am more on the positive side of things that it would be repealed. Yeah, it would make a lot of my last couple of months look kind of like a lot of wasted time, but that's really okay, because I just know I have to be there kind of for my clients so that they're ready to hit the ground running on January 1st, realistically, just for the tracking of all of this, because that's where the biggest homework the homework and the headache is gonna come in from the tracking. And I know it's difficult. I really do, especially when you're on 50 different sites moving money around. It's not like you can just sit there and say, hey, my DraftKings account on 1/1, I took a picture of it. It had $50K in it, and I ended the year with $250K in it. No, me and you both know there's going to be a $50,000 transfer over to FanDuel, and you moved this out and you deposited more on 10 other times. Yeah, the headache is realistically just going to come from the tracking of everything. But that's where you're going to be able to protect yourself from the back end. The most part, the more you track, the easier it'll just be.
Hey, we're big fans of tracking over here at Behind the Lines. So, we've been talking about that for a long time. And hey, look, it can only help bettors in the long run. And now here's another reason to be tracking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great stuff. All right. Awesome stuff, Gary. Really appreciate you coming on the show, sharing this with us. We hope that all of you out there listening are able to kind of take something away from this and sort of help better inform you as you kind of navigate this very kind of tricky and complicated situation. Gary, best of luck to you. Gary Conler, accountant at Kondler and Associates. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on. Have a great day, guys.
All right, John, just me and you now. Gary's gone, Pace is gone, and it is time to hit the grind. John, we'll kick things off in college. You've got a few games for us there. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so a really good slate of games this Saturday. A couple ranked matchups in the SEC. Got one in the Big Ten with Iowa USC as well, and then a lot of teams in action. So we'll just kind of start with those big SEC matchups. So number 11, Texas at number 5, Georgia. The primetime ABC game in the United States. Georgia laying 6 at home. I will be on the -6 with the Bulldogs here at home against Texas. I make this closer to 9. So getting under the touchdown, I really like. And I'll say right before I go through this one and the next one that both of these lines may keep going down. I could see these being some wise guy spots here where people kind of just taking the dog on the road that nobody wants to bet against Georgia and against Alabama. But I'm laying it here. I think this is a good matchup for Georgia. They've found a lot of success on offense recently. Texas, Arch Manning still he has not played a good game on the road. And so I like the value on the number here. And if Georgia is down at all, like they have been every week so far, pretty much, you can rest assured I will be taking them live as well. Kirby Smart adjusting in the middle of the game better than anybody out there in the sport. So love Georgia -6 here.
Okay.
Next, another ranked matchup, Alabama. This is earlier in the day, hosting Oklahoma. Number 12, Oklahoma at number 4, Alabama. Alabama again laying 6, 5.5 some places on this one. So I'm also taking it here with the home favorite, Alabama, going chalk again at home in this spot. I'm still not – I just can't get behind Oklahoma, what I see out of them. I have them graded much lower than the market, I think. I didn't put much stock in that game, the win against Tennessee. It was impressive, but I think Tennessee really did a lot of things to give that game away more than anything else. So I like the matchup here for Alabama. I think Oklahoma is going to struggle to move the ball on offense. And I think Alabama is going to get it done here at home.
All right.
The next game, I like Ole Miss at home -15.5 against Florida. Lane Kiffin coming off a 49-0 victory against the Citadel, I believe. Yeah. So essentially kind of a bye week there for Lane. I guarantee you Lane has been practicing for Florida since before last week. So Florida just really, they didn't even show up. This past week, they looked like they just quit on the season. I think they benched Lagway like halfway through that game too. So I like Ole Miss. Anything under 17 or less here, I think they get it done. They have a bye next week as well before they play their rival Mississippi State. So really no reason to kind of take the foot off the gas here or do anything. So I think Lane tries to get the cover here against Florida. The next one is a little dumpster dive here, taking Navy +10.5 at home against South Florida. One reason I like this, first of all, it's a service academy. I'm getting double digits here at home. Navy just got destroyed by Notre Dame, but I think that was to be expected. What I like from that game is that Blake Horvath, their quarterback, didn't play in that game. He was a scratch right before the game. So I think that was intentional to keep him fresh for conference play, knowing that they probably didn't have a chance to win that game anyway. So I really like that he didn't get banged up against some superior competition last week. So Navy controls their own destiny, I believe, in the Americans. So at home, catching double digits here with the Service Academy, I like quite a bit.
Right. Double digit spread. Do you think they're going to just slow the game down and stay in it?
Try to eat some clock, keep that fast moving USF offense off the field as much as possible. That's right. Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Yep. And then last for the college slate, I like Tennessee first half -23.5.
Anything first under half play. This is unusual, John. This is different for
very, very unusual for me. This is the right spot to do it. So Tennessee coming off a bye. Their season, their playoff hopes are done, but they have rival Florida to play next week, who I don't believe they've won in Gainesville in almost maybe 20 years or so. Again, catching Florida while they're really reeling this season. So I think they try to get things going early, but then take their foot off the gas late potentially. Josh Heupel as a favorite of 3 or more in the first half since at Tennessee, 39-16-2 against the spread there in the first half, 7-1 as a favorite of 24 or more in the first half. So I like them to run it up early on New Mexico State and then kind of coast into next week.
All right. That's it for college. Let's head over to the NFL. What you got for us?
Yeah. So the NFL this week, I'm going to back the Carolina Panthers on the road at the Atlanta Falcons. Panthers after they just lost at home to the lowly New Orleans Saints. I will be taking the +4, picking up the corpse off the side of the road with the Panthers here this week. I think this should be under a field goal. I don't know why I don't know what the Falcons have really done to be more than a field goal favorite here. They're also coming back from Berlin this week, having to turn around and play this early game on Sunday. So I really like the spot here for the Panthers. I love to back a team after they score single digits. So I'll be doing it here again.
Well, those divisional games, right? Like New Orleans, a divisional game. Now Atlanta, a divisional game, back-to-back divisional games here. I mean, you got to think that they really don't want to lose 2 in a row.
Right. Yeah. They're going to be firing on all cylinders here, I think, for this one. So I like this one a lot.
Okay.
The next one is disgusting. I'm taking the Titans +7.5 at home against the Houston Texans. I'm assuming
another
Stroud's going to play.
I hate this division.
I'm assuming Stroud's going to play. I don't really care. The Texans have not been good, even with him. That they won this past week. We cashed on that with the Texans beating the Jags coming from behind. That was to me more about the Jags and just blowing that lead against Davis Mills is pretty sad. So it's 7.5 at home in a division game. Titans coming off a bye. I think this should be under 6. So the 7.5 here I think is a really good number. The next one, we got a couple division unders. So I'm taking under 41.5 in the Ravens Bengals. Okay. I know it's scary betting an under with the Bengals.
Yeah.
Their defense is historically bad. The Ravens defense, though, I think has really kind of found itself over the last few weeks. And I think this is supposed to be a really bad weather game. Again, we're recording early in the week. I mentioned on stream, I keep getting screwed over by these meteorologists this year, but I'm seeing like high teens winds, rain, cold rain. So it looks kind of bad there. So
we're into that time of year now. I'm in Ontario. We got a ton of snow over the weekend. I think this game is being played in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, not that far away, and it's that time of year where you get that crappy weather, but also kind of a lot of people out there refer to this time of year as Derrick Henry season. Yeah,
that's true. He didn't look very good this past week. I don't really know what the deal was. Eventually Father Time conquers everybody. I always root for Derrick. Hope he keeps ahead of it, but he looked like he kind of lost his step there last week.
Well, we'll see how the rest of this second half of the season plays out for him.
Yeah. Next one, Chiefs Broncos under 45. So this one is going to be, I think, again, also it was supposed to be some wind in this game. It's just a pretty high number, I thought, for a Broncos, any game involving the Broncos, where it just seems like nobody can score. In their games.
They can't score. They don't let their opponents score. Yeah. The games end in the teens on both sides. That's their MO.
Divisional knowledge here. Just this number was actually really surprising to me. I think it has gotten bet down a little bit, just like that Ravens Bengals number. I think that Bengals number was like 44.5 when it opened. It's all the way 3 points down now. So I think the weather's definitely a factor with that, but this one just even without weather, this number really, really surprised me. So I like this one. Under 45 there quite a bit. And then finally, really nasty last bet here. I like the Las Vegas Raiders +3.5 at home against the Cowboys next Monday night. I don't have much. I know the Cowboys always get hype just because they're the Cowboys. So whenever they do really well, like whenever they have a good game, it's like, oh, they're back. They figured it out. They're 3-5-1. So they have one more win than the Raiders. and they're 1-4 on the road. This will probably be more of a home game, obviously, for the Cowboys, though, in Las Vegas, just because of the nature of the home field advantage for the Raiders and how many Cowboys fans there are. But 3.5 here for two teams that I essentially have pretty closely power rated. I just have to take. So it should be closer to 1.5.
So the last time we saw the Cowboys, they were losing at home. They lost at home to the Cardinals.
They did. Yeah, they did. So they continue to get market respect, and I don't really understand why. I think it's probably just more so that there's not much money coming in on the Raiders to give some pushback there. So,
Plus 3.5 Raiders. All right. Pace not here, but he does have a teaser that he wants to share. So I'll give that to you now. It is the Tampa Bay Bucks at the Buffalo Bills, and he's taking the Bucks plus 11.5. So the main line minus 5.5 for the Bills. He's taken Bucks plus 11.5, and he's pairing that with the Seattle Seahawks, also on the road at the Los Angeles Rams, where the Rams are minus 2.5 favorites. So tease that 6 points to plus 8.5, and put that together with the Bucks plus 11.5, and there is your pod teaser of the week from Andrew Pace himself, who couldn't be here for this. I think he's playing pickleball or something now. Probably
the important things in life.
The important things in life, exactly. All right, John. Before we say goodbye, anything in the CFL that you want to mention?
No, I mean, I haven't really been. I actually didn't even get a chance to watch the last round of playoff games. So I know we Montreal, our guys are in the Grey Cup. So I think there's probably some value on them. I know we have them to win outright at like plus 300 or something like that, plus 350. I can't remember what we bet them on in that stream, but I mean, plus 3 is kind of enticing when we think we're getting a better team with a plus number next to it.
Right. All right. Well, there we go. Awesome, John. Well, appreciate you as always for this. And for everybody out there, you're looking at where you can find these bets, where you might be able to place them. SX is the place to do it. You'll get the very best odds over there. You can even take a look, play around a little bit, because you might be able to get the teaser in there too. But they'll for sure have all of these, all of those lines, all of those spreads are out there. Those totals as well. You could get them all on there. And they've got their parlay tournament round 2. So they did the parlay tournament before. That was pretty cool. All you had to do was place your parlays. It didn't matter how often you won. All that matters is the accumulator amount, and you get points based off of that. So let's just say you place $100 at 10 to 1. You automatically get 1,000 points right there, just like that. And you can climb the leaderboard really, really quickly. You don't even have, and as I mentioned, you don't have to win those bets. So you just place them and you get the points. And sometimes, the top prizes here are thousands of dollars. So absolutely worth it. They are running round 2 of that now. So round 1 was so successful, they have created round 2. So you want to put some of those wagers together that John mentioned. That's a great place to do it. You probably won't get better value anywhere. 1, from the odds, and 2, from the fact you'll be in the tournament and you can win cash from being in the tournament. So there you have it. All right, John, and to Pace and Gary, who aren't here, but thanks for coming on the show, and to sports bettors around the world. Till next week, keep beating those books. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join in Play Live, use promo code Behind the Lines.